Okay, so this is my video on operant conditioning for psychological foundations with Dr. Zimmerly. We'll begin with defining operant conditioning. All right, the process of behavior modification in which a subject is encouraged to behave in a desired manner through positive or negative reinforcement so that the subject comes to associate the pleasure or displeasure of the reinforcement with the behavior. The theory of operant conditioning began in the late 19th century with Edward Thorndike, specifically around 1898. Dr. Thorndike was an American psychologist who spent nearly his entire life at Teachers College at Columbia University. Dr. Thorndike studied the ability of animals to learn. He created an experiment using a puzzle box to test the laws of learning. He placed a cat in a puzzle box with a scrap of fish on the outside. The fish enticed the cat to escape. Thorndike would place his cat into the puzzle box and time how long it took the cat to escape every time. The cat experimented with different ways to escape the puzzle box and reach the fish. Eventually, the cat found the most efficient way to escape, and with each successful test, the cat became quicker at succeeding in this task. This cat in the puzzle box experiment led to Thorndike's law of effect theory. The law of effect theory states that any behavior that is followed by a pleasant consequence is likely to be repeated, and any behavior followed by an unpleasant consequence is likely to be stopped. Thorndike's theory would become the foundation pioneers such as B.F. Skinner would use to further the field of operant conditioning. In 1938, B.F. Skinner published the results of his operant conditioning experiments in the behavior of the organisms. His work drew multiple comparisons to Ivan Pavlov, but Skinner's work involved learning responses to an environment rather than involuntary responses to stimuli. Skinner studied operant conditioning by conducting experiments using animals he placed in a Skinner box, which was similar to Thorndike's puzzle box. Skinner coined the term operant conditioning. He introduced a new term into the law of effect called reinforcement. Reinforcement is behavior which is reinforced, leads to repeated or strengthened behavior. Behavior which is not reinforced tends to decrease or weaken. Skinner identified three responses to the operant that can follow behavior: neutral operants, reinforcers, and punishers. The two types of reinforcers are positive reinforcers, which involves an addition of something to increase a response, and negative reinforcement. That involves removing something in order to increase a response. Punishment is defined as the opposite of reinforcement, since it's designed to weaken or eliminate the response rather than increase it. Punishment can work by directly applying an unpleasant stimulus or by removing a particularly rewarding stimulus. During Skinner's research of operant conditioning, he discovered several schedules of reinforcement. They are identified as two types of reinforcement schedules: continuous and partial. Continuous reinforcement is the desired behavior is reinforced every single time it occurs. This is best used during first stages of learning to create a strong association between behavior and responses. Partial reinforcement has several different varieties: fixed ratio, variable ratio, fixed interval, and variable interval. Classroom applications of this type of operant conditioning: you've got verbal praise, which is a positive reinforcer. Students participate in classroom discussions. You reinforce it by verbally praising them. Correctly completing an assignment, same thing, verbal reinforcement. Proactively completing an assignment without prompting, again, verbal praise. You can also use negative reinforcement. Working with students to complete an assignment and then saying, okay, now you don't have homework, is a good negative reinforcement. You can do the same thing by reading aloud in class and saying, okay, you don't have to do your reading assignment at night. Sometimes, though, you have to use a punisher. Verbal warnings, detention, sometimes taking away free time or removing a recess. Those are different types of punishments. This concludes my presentation on operant conditioning. Have a nice day.